So I'm just wanting to interview Jen because she's using Out of the Box in her school. So could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, Jen?
Hi, I'm Jen Bayley. I'm from Little Gonnaby Infant School in Grantham, and I'm assistant head as well as a Key Stage 1 teacher. And I've been using Out of the Box for quite a while now in my classroom, and have seen some really great benefits to children's well-being, as well as their ability to communicate and to share their feelings with others. And it's also linked beautifully with our new relationships policy, because as a school we made that decision to remove sanctions and move away from sort of the punitive approach and have a more restorative conversation with children. And so the questioning that we get through the Out of the Box stories have really supported that.
Great. So it supported your whole school practice and changed how you are with children in terms of restorative practice. Fantastic. Could you give us a few examples? You're using it yourself in the classroom. Could you give us maybe a few examples of how you're seeing impact on well-being or how it's helping with the restorative practice?
Yeah, I keep the box in my classroom cupboard, and if I move the box or I pick the box up, my class actually cheer now. They absolutely love the stories. They do have their favourites, like the stick that got stuck, which is always one that's requested. But we tend to use it as a calm reflection time. So just to give children a chance to breathe and reflect in a busy day, because the school timetable, as other teachers will know, is jam-packed. So we just put aside half an hour to spend some time just having a story and spending some time together, which again aids that restorative side of our relationships, because it's building relationships and it's allowing children to communicate effectively with each other. And it's also given children a safe space to share and reflect on their feelings. Since COVID, we've noticed a number of children are really struggling emotionally. And so I've been using the stories either as a large group or, where necessary, I've had a smaller group of children. And sometimes even a one-to-one story has worked really well, just to bring out some of those feelings and emotions and difficulties the children might be having. I've also noticed that my quieter, more reluctant children are starting to join in a lot more. And I think it did take time. So when I first introduced it, getting them to contribute and share their feelings, they were a little bit shy, a little bit reluctant. But now I have hands going up everywhere and people wanting to comment and contribute. And other adults in my room are amazed at some of the responses we get, because they're only 5, 6 and 7 in my class, and the responses they give are so mature and deep. It's just brilliant. I've also found creating that circle and sitting in a circle is a lot less intrusive to have a conversation. And again, that's taken time to build that trust, that it's a safe space, but we use circles of trust a lot in school. Every class uses it. So when we sit down and read a story, the children are quite used to having that circle to share. I love how it gets children to actively listen and wonder. I'm religion and worldviews coordinator in school as well, so I'm very big on allowing children to disagree agreeably, and to be able to hold a reasoned debate. And that's what I love about Out of the Box, is that when we sit and have a story, you might not agree with another person, but you're learning how to respond to that appropriately. And that will across our curriculum and how we run in school. And as time has progressed and we've repeated stories, children are now taking their wonderings a little bit deeper. So they're a lot more confident to add their own ideas to the story and say, well, instead of an elephant, what if they threw a giraffe? Or, things like that. Or in the donkey story, well, maybe we could just build a separate path for the donkey to go around. And they're thinking a lot more about how to adapt the stories to help the characters in the story. Some children have gone home and have loved it so much they've had to go at writing their own scripts. So still a work in progress, so I can't share them yet. But I mean, they're 5 years old and they're going home wanting to write their own stories. They love the box so much that I had to create a little mini version. So in my classroom, I have a little hygge area where it's got blankets and cushions and a little teepee tent. And the children have their little story box. And I see them copying exactly what I do, rolling it out carefully and turning the box upside down and taking time to share stories that they've made up with each other. And I also like that for children who are struggling emotionally to communicate what's going on, it's a very non-invasive, non-intrusive way of being able to express their feelings. At the end of a story the other day, I invited the children to just create a picture with me about their week using the resources inside the box. And one little boy said, "It's been an up and down week, Mrs. Bayley." He said, "I know that I've had struggles this week and some bits haven't gone very well at all." So he said, "I think I need a black cloud." He said, "But actually it's got better. As we've chatted and I've sorted it out, it's got a bit better. So I want a sunshine as well." But it was great how he was able to articulate that. And then by the end, we'd created this beautiful class picture of all their successes, but equally things that they know they wanted to work on, which just sings restorative practice for us and really helps, you know, how we teach in school.
Yeah. Wow, thank you. I'm wondering if I could, I'm going to pause this a minute and see if I can share that picture, because he did send a picture of it. So you took a photo of the class picture, so I'll just share screen now so that maybe you could just talk a little bit about that. Here we go.
Yeah, this was following a story. So I told a story first, and then before putting away the material at the bottom, I asked them just to talk about their week. How do you think it's been? And when I mentioned the little boy who said, "I've had an up and down week," that's the picture of him on the right hand side there in the hot tub. So he'd been to his hot tub, but he knew he'd had an up and down week. So there's his sun and his cloud. And just below that, we had a little boy who had been celebrating Eid. So he asked for a plate because he'd had a celebration with food. And then the other children suggested the golden thread to go around him because it was a special time, which I thought was absolutely wonderful. And then we had lots of other, so we got the big smiley face because one little boy said, "I've just had a good week." So there's an ice cream at the top. Somebody had a sleepover. So where the stars are at the very top of the picture. And then the other children said, "Well, surely you need some sheep, because if she had a sleepover, she'd have been counting sheep." So we had a really lovely conversation. Just in the centre, next to the cross, we had the heart, where a little boy said, "I've just had time with my family. I've just enjoyed spending some family time." Then we had a goalpost, where the little boy was just really proud because he'd been practicing his corners in football and he'd mastered it. So he wanted to celebrate that. So it was just a really lovely time to celebrate what's gone well for them and a chance just to chat. If it hasn't gone well, that's okay. But what could we do to help, and how could we support each other?
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you. And that, yeah, all about sharing life together, not just siloing things off into school or education, but they come with the whole of their lives, the whole of their feelings. Absolutely. Everything's there, everything's accepted, just a way to be together.
I think a massive point would be relationships and building those relationships. And children need to see you as a human, not just a teacher. So, you know, I'll share about my life as well, and my children and my husband, and we'll talk about if I've had a tricky week, I'll say. A really tricky day yesterday. I was feeling a bit sad, but this is what I did. so they can see and they can learn, and you're that role model to them and how to access their feelings. And again, that's how the stories really support that.
Yeah. And that builds resilience, doesn't it? So knowing that life can be difficult, but we come back up out of it, and all of that sharing and storying really builds resilience and that inner wisdom as well. Wow. And that relationship with teacher. When I used to be a teacher, I came from this sort of school. Well, when I started teaching, there were teachers who said, you know, don't share anything of yourself, don't be vulnerable, don't, you know, it's like, and that's so hard. Because children relate to people through their emotions. Well, we all do, don't we? It's about relationships. So education stems from that emotive feeling and the relationships you have.
Yeah.
Lovely. So is there, are you using Out of the Box this week at all? Have you got any plans this week before half term or after half term to use it in any other ways?
Well, we've got, if I go back to my little boy who has been struggling a little bit in class.
Oh, yes.
We are going to be using that story on a one-to-one basis with him weekly, and using different stories to try and just help him to draw out his emotions a little bit more. And that's with Jenny Fitch, who the Grantham Church Schools leader working for Lightspace, who's also a trainer for Out of the Box. But now the weather has improved, I'd really like to take it outside into our forest school area. So I'd like to show the children that at playtime, you don't need the wooden figures and the felt pieces. You can go out and you can use leaves and sticks and pebbles and the resources we've got outside. So as they're playing on the school field, they can sit in their little circles and tell their own stories using those resources. So that's my plan, maybe for after half term, when the weather has improved a little bit more, to start teaching them, actually, you can use more than just what's in the box. You know, it's down to your imaginations.
Fantastic. Absolutely loose parts play, which children just do naturally anyway. And if we didn't give them all this stuff, they would just do it, wouldn't they? So it's just rekindling that.
It is.
Play with it. Oh, empowering them, I guess, in the playground and in school to do what they naturally do.
Yeah, and I'm hoping some of my year twos will maybe train up, you know, the year ones and the reception children. And as a school, we're in the process of consultation to become a full primary. So then I'm hoping that we can then run Out of the Box throughout the whole, you know, the whole primary level. And the older ones can maybe take more ownership, telling the stories to the younger children as well.
Yeah. Wow. So the children become out of the box storytellers who hold that safe and brave space for each other.
Yeah.
And you're modeling that to them so that and that's really the key. Where it's come from is deep talk, where it's about dialogue. It's about how we are with each other. So it's not so much just the sessions that you're seeing the potential for, but actually what it leads to, because it's about relationships. How we are.
It is.
Wow. You're really modeling an out of the box atmosphere rather than just out of the box method and the story. That's like almost like the springboard to this, to the whole atmosphere.
I think it's important not just to have it as a one-off and a standalone. It's something that you build up and you use, you know, again and again. And you could probably tell the same story over and over again, but like I said, my children have different viewpoints each time, or they've changed their mind, or they want to add to the story. So we build up on it. But I have seen such a difference in just how they are when they sit in that circle. My liveliest of children, because we've all got them that you're sort of having to keep, they sit still and they listen. So I have used some of the resources to tell stories, particularly in RE. So I did the Night of Power, but instead of using the characters, obviously because it was an Islamic story, we lit a candle for the angel and things like that. And for the characters, I just moved my fingers. I just pointed where the character was going. And that worked really well. So when it came to their written work and their activities, that it had really retained, they got it and they could tell me the story. Whereas if at the front, you know, as a teacher talking to the class, or I'd used a PowerPoint presentation, it might not have gone in as well. So I think having those visual resources really do help.
Great. So that's another side of Out of the Box, using it for religion and worldviews to learn from and about religion, which as a religion and worldviews expert, I know you're already using it, and others are as well, to tell those stories in that visual way. But I love the fact that what we have to do and what you're doing is being very sensitive to the actual faith, the religion that we're talking about. So in Islam, you wouldn't use the figures.
No.
And that's a whole load. So just for those people listening, we've got different genre in Out of the Box. The wisdom Out of the Box is what we've started with, and what you'll have been doing, it has been, so the donkey story and the stick that got stuck. So they've come from children's literature and from faith stories, but we've sort of decontextualized them. So they're just general wisdom stories. And then with the other genre are the relational worldviews, which you're already beginning to use Out of the Box. And then we've got nature Out of the Box, history. We've got a couple of stories. I don't know if you've used any of the history stories we've done. The one from Remembrance and the children's train. So we've worked with Lord Alf Dubs on his story of being part of the kinder transport. And then what else we got? We're having science, technology, engineering, maths Out of the Box, and arts Out of the Box. We've got some ones on music, and then a very different genre is shalom, or Christian nurture, which wouldn't be used in a school because that's confession. That would be confessional. That's used for people, say, in churches. We've very, very clearly made the different genres so that we don't start doing stuff which is not appropriate in a school. So, but yeah, really looking forward to working with you on the religion and worldviews ones. Wow, thank you so much. Is there anything else, Jen? I mean, we could probably talk all day, but you have a job to do. Is there anything else that you think hasn't had a chance to say, or?
I don't think so, but I would say if anyone is thinking of trialing Out of the Box, it really is worth it. And I've used it from reception to year 3, because I've been and trialed it in a different school as well. And I've really seen the benefits of wellbeing and emotional resilience as well.
Great, thank you. And just to say something that we are rolling out, and I know that we're talking with you about this, is that what we call our Wisdom Wonder Wellbeing workshops, which will be specifically as like an hour and a half or 2 hour inset for whole schools, which we're not saying not every teacher can necessarily do Out of the Box stories because of time, or because other things that they're doing, or other things that are also very helpful for wellbeing. But the general ideas, the principles that underpin Out of the Box, you've so shown how they work with through the whole school curriculum and everything you do. So our Wisdom Wonder Wellbeing are more about how to take those principles and maybe tweak things that we do, or just notice how we're already doing those good ways of relating to people that help with well-being. So that's something that we're hoping will be beneficial for schools.
Sounds wonderful. Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah. So thank you very much, and all the best for your day with the children today.
Thank you very much.